All right, so we learned about solving problems in chapter 1. Basically come up with a step algorithm to basically solve problem. This is and we the homework for chapter 1 was to create basically a solution outline, 6-step solution outline that didn't involve any computer, just to basically come up with the outline of a solution. And this is important when you're solving a complex problem, because many times if you don't know how to solve a problem on paper, you're not going to be able to write a program to do that. So so this is important. Even so, you know, at the beginning, you're going to see that most of the problem we're solving are very trivial, very simple. This is not going to be the case as we go into more advanced chapters. So later on, it's going to become more difficult, and coming up with a solution on paper become important. So always think of that, is that programming is a mechanical part, is not the difficult part. Coming up with a solution is a difficult part. So always keep that in mind. And that's why good programmers are people that are good in solving problems. All right, so what we're gonna do today, we go in chapter 2, we're gonna start with the basics. All right, so we implemented actually the program that we, the algorithm that we did on coming up with the gross pay using a program in Visual Basic last week. What we're going to do today are simpler than what we did last week. All right, so the things that we did last week, we're going to go over them again on chapter 3. So today we're going to do very basic stuff. So if there is a lab that's going to be very easy for you to do to score grades, chapter 2 is a chapter in here, so don't miss that. This is very easy to do. So I'm going to start in here, Visual Studio. If you haven't installed Visual Studio, there is a link I provided on the website. So I'm starting Visual Studio on how to download and install it. So follow the information on the video to do that. All right. So when you start Visual Studio 2019. The first time you're gonna create a project is you're gonna say create a new project, and you're gonna look for a template, the Visual Basic template, and this is not as straightforward. It just take time to find it. So we already did that in chapter 1, and so when I say in here create a new project, I want to click on create a new project. When I create a new project, there is a list of all the different projects in here, and this take time to find the project you want. You can see there's tons of them, right? So, okay. So a better way, I'm gonna go ahead and mute everyone, because so I'm gonna click on mute all for now. Okay. Okay. All right. When I ask if you have questions, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. So if you remember on last week, we created a project, a Windows form app, a Visual Basic project. And the Visual Studio remember the template, so it's in here, the recent project template. I want to click on that recent template. I say next. Double click it, and here it is. Again, it asks me for project name. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder for chapter 2 project. So I'm going to click on here, location. I'm going to put it on the desktop under classes, under COSCI 103, and I'm going to call this one VB2. I'll put it in new folder VB2. Please, can you stop unmuting yourself, because only if you have a question, you need to unmute yourself. So please unmute yourself for now. All right, so we have VB2, okay? We created a folder to put the application there. I want to select that folder, so I want to put it under the VB2 folder. And we're gonna create different application, all right? The first application I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call it the language translator, and I will show you the design for it. All right, so I'm gonna do lots of example today, and on Next week, I will do the PowerPoint presentation too that would go over the concept. I think this is easier to do it this way. I want to say in here, create. All right, and this is going to create an empty Visual Basic project, all right, with a form. There is a toolbox that is shown on the left-hand side. We did set it up last meeting, so you may want to review the video on how we did that. And I can click on the push pen to keep it display all the time. This is where you can put all the controls, all the visual elements that you're going to have in here, such as radio buttons and text boxes and all of that. And there's another one is a property window. This is an important one also on the right-hand side. I'm going to click on the push pen to display it all the time. All right. You want to list all your property alphabetically. I'm going to click on the A to Z to list them alphabetically. All right. And this is the form. All right. We talked a little bit about properties on last meeting. I'm going to just go ahead and do a quick refresher on this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and start this visualizer so you can project what I'm writing on to the screen. Okay, let me set up the video. Okay, I need to close it and reopen it, I guess. Okay. All right. Okay. I think I connected the wrong one. My mistake. Let's try that again. I want to close this one and open it again. I'm sorry about that. Okay. So we have this saying, let me, okay, I think the Zoom is okay. So we're going to be creating form in here, right? And we said, and what you see in here is, you see the different controls in here. This is a form. And we said that you need to name controls. So these are buttons, right? Right. So these are buttons. So a good name, we said that when you name buttons, you start with a prefix btn, right? And then maybe use a meaningful name, German. Right. So this is a language translator. So if you say hello in here, and then you click on Italian, it's going to say hello in Italian. If you say hello in Spanish, it's going to hello in Spanish. So it's going to be BTN Spanish. And this is BTN Italian. Right. And this one is a text box. So a good name for that is use a prefix TXT. And we're gonna call this one maybe greeting. Right. So we're gonna use meaningful name. The convention is when you have a different control, you're gonna use a prefix. Right. So if you have maybe a text box, you use a txt prefix. Prefixes are all lowercase, right? So when you have a label, use the LBL prefix, right? When you have a button, you can use BTN prefix, right? And today we're going to talk about picture boxes, which allow you to display images. You have a picture box, you can use a PIC prefix. So this is a convention that is widely used in the Visual Basic programming community, so you have to follow that, right? My mistake, this one, I want to make a correction in here. This is a label, even so it looked like a textbook is a label. So this is, I'm going to name this one LBL, greeting. All right, we'll talk later on how you can make a label look like a text box. Right, so we're gonna do that. All right, so this is the first application you want to do when I create this kind of interface. Right, now we said whenever you program, you have to set the property. The way you can get this thing look like this is by changing the text property. By setting the text property, you can make language translator display these characteristic in here by setting the text property, right? So we talk about different properties. Let's go ahead and list them because these are important to know. Right, so we talk about properties. Right, some of them work for many control, but we're gonna work mostly today, okay, with labels. So I'm gonna put in here labels properties. Even so, these apply to many other control, not just labels. They apply to many other control. The two properties that everybody is aware of from last week lecture, and even in the assignment, you have to specify these property, was the name property, and it's in parentheses, right? The name property allow your program to reference the control. In other words, the name property, you don't see it on the screen. It's just for you when you do the programming. This is where you reference it, right? The other property that we talked about last week was the text property. The text property is basically what display on the screen. This is what you see. What display on screen. The name property doesn't display on the screen. You don't see it. But the text property is what you see. Today we're going to talk about other properties. There are many other property that we're going to talk about related to label. One of them is the font property. The font property allow you to set the size, the color, and the style of a font. Actually, not the color, but the style and the size. You can have colors. You can have a foreground color, which is a text color property. You can have a background color, back color. These allow you to change the color of the text or the label, right? There is other features that you have. You can add a border around the label. It's called border style. It allows you to add a border, either a single line border or three-dimensional border around the label. This will make the label look like a text box in a sense if you add a border on it, right? There's another feature called auto size. Auto size property, right? By default, the label that you enter, no matter how big it is, even if you're gonna type a paragraph, is gonna appear all in one line, okay, which doesn't look nice, right? So by default, auto size is true, but most of the time you want to change it to false so you can size the label. So you can put it more like in a box or something like that. Right. So there is also, you can align the label. There's text align. So you can center the label in the middle of the container, so you can have it horizontally centered or vertically centered, or maybe horizontally centered but vertically aligned to the top, and different variation. We'll see that, right? So these are some of the property we're going to talk about. As I remember more, I'll add them. So this is, we're going to work lots of things. So in this chapter 2, we're going to do minimal programming. So it's mostly working with the interface. So we're going to do lots of working with the visual interface, a little programming. The program is going to be very obvious to do. But let's go ahead and go back to the application. So this is what we have, all right? And we're going to do basically this language translator form that I showed you, right? So the first thing you would see in here is the title in here of the form is called Form 1. We don't want Form 1, if you remember, from the sheet that I have. We want to display language translator. So we want to change the title to say language translator, right? So we want to change that. Okay, so let's see how we're going to do that. This is what you see. This is called text property. So we need to set the text property. So again, I can go to the property windows. And since it is listed alphabetically, I can scroll all the way to the bottom and select the text property. Here it is. Right now it's a Form 1. I can change that to language translator. When I press enter, you're going to see that displayed on the title bar. All right, so we have that. We need to add some labels in here. All right, so if you see in here in the design, you need to have select a language to say goodbye, to say good morning, right? So we need to put that in. All right, so this is a label. I can select the label from the toolbox. Double click on the label. Here it is. It's going to show me the label. Now, the label appear in small font, right? Instead of changing the font of each property, right, I can select the entire form, right? And then go to the font property. All right, this is, I listed it as part of the property we're going to use. Here it is. It's on the property window. I can click on that and then click on the 3 ellipses next to it. And this is going to allow me to set the font size and the font style. All right, when it starts. Here it is. So, okay, I'm going to select 12-point font. All right, and then say OK. You can see that everything in the form increases. So this is now it's 12-point. Okay, I'm gonna need 2 labels, because if you look at the form, both of these are labels, right? Even so, this is look more like a text box. It is a label, right? So I want to add 2 labels. So I want to add another label. I can add another label by going to the toolbox and double click on label, or I can basically select the label and do Control-C to copy it, and then Control-V to paste it. And this is gonna give me another copy. Here it is. Right. Let's add the first label. The first label should say select a language to say good morning. This is what you see. It's a text property. I'll go to the property window, select it first. Go to the property. Here is the text property. When I say in here, select a language to say good morning. Right, so it's gonna say that. Spacing in here. Here it is. So we have that. And below it, we're gonna put this other label that's gonna look like a text box. I wanna resize this window in here. All right, now this label doesn't look like a textbook, right? But if you remember the property that we discussed, okay, that we have the text property. right? So we have the font property we already used to change the font size. You can change the font color, right? But you can add a border around the label. And that's what we're going to do next. We're going to add the border, right? And there's auto size. We're going to use that also. Let's see how this works. Right. So with this selected, I will go to the border style. Here it is. It's right now it have no border. I want to add a border around it. I can choose to add a fixed single border, which is going to add a single line border around it, or I can choose to use more like a fixed 3D, which will make it look like more like a text box, right? Doesn't matter. I'm going to select. Let's go ahead and select fixed 3D, right? And I can resize it. Now, the problem right now is there's the auto size property is set to true. The problem with that is that if you type labels in here, if you type tags, and you can type as many tags in here, it's going to show up all in one line. If I press enter, it's going to be all in one line. It's going to go even off the window. And this is not what I want. I want it to be bounded by a specific size. So I cannot let it go like this. So what you can do, you can change the auto size property from true, change that to false. When you do that, then you can size it the way you like. And you can have it look like a paragraph if you want. But I want to size it like this. All right. Now, this is, if you notice, if I increase it, it align on the top. Okay. And you may want to align it in the center. You want it to be in the center, right? To do that, you would use the text align property. This is another property, is text align. The text align property allow you to align the text in the label. So I want to go ahead and change the text align property from the property window. Change that right now is top left. If I click on the arrow, you can choose different option. And one of the common usually option is the middle center, which is this one. If I click on it, it's going to center it in the middle, which is what I want. Okay. Now I don't want this text in here, so I'm gonna go ahead. Let's change the color, right? Let's make it look a little bit, maybe go away from the black and white. Let's go with the foreground color. Let's set that, change that to maybe a blue color. There's a system colors, but you have a custom colors, and you can choose the color you like. Let's make it blue. All right, so the color changes blue. You can change the background color, which is right now is gray. You can change the background color by going to back color property. And I can select custom color. I can use any color. I can do white color if I want to, or I can use yellow, kind of yellowish, or whatever it is. So you can do that. All right, I'm gonna resize it. Right, so we have that. I want to delete the text. Text doesn't look that good, so I'm gonna select all the text in the text property. Oh, not my new text, and then I want to delete that. So it's gonna clear it. So that's what we have. And now I can center these things. So just chapter 2 is just really fun. It's just working. I can draw a box to select both controls and move them together. And I can resize that. Right, so we have this thing, right? Right, I need to add buttons now. We need 3 buttons, 1 for each language. So these are on top of the toolbox window. I'm gonna double click it, 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 buttons. And this can represent the 3 languages. And notice a nice kind of lavender line that is given to align them together. I can select them as a group and move them together. While they're selected as a group, I can adjust the size together. Here it is. Let's go ahead and change the text property for each one. The first one is going to be for Italian language. And somebody have to help me up with the translation because I don't know the words. Okay, so in here, second button is going to be for, let me see, for Spanish. And the third one is for German. All right, so these are basically the user interface, okay? This is the user interface of it, okay? Now, the next step is you need to name relevant control. You don't need to name everything, but you need to name relevant control. Only the control you're gonna program you need to name, which are the label that's used for output. This is gonna be for output. We have to name that, give it a meaningful name. The name of the buttons, right? So we need to name them. So I'll select the first label. This is, since it is a label, I go to the name property. Notice the name property appear near the top. Change it. The default name is label 2. Just enable them label 1, label 2, etc. We're gonna change this one to the LBL greeting name, right? The way we design it on the user interface. This one this is a button, so we're gonna use a BTN prefix. BTN Italian. And this one, BTN Spanish. And this one, BTN German. All right, so we have that. So we create the user interface, right? So interface is done. I'm gonna go ahead and hide this. I have the zoom bar on top, so I'm gonna hide it because it's hiding my so hide floating. All right, so we have that. So now I'm gonna go ahead and run this application. To run it, you click on the start button in here. I'm just gonna run it, but of course, because we haven't wrote any code behind it, when you click on the buttons, nothing is gonna happen, right? So just give me 1 second. While this is doing that, I wanna try to come up with the names in Italian and Spanish because I don't know the words. Okay, yeah, right. So is it starting or not yet? Still haven't? Sometimes, yeah, here it is. Still, it take time the first time to compile. Okay. Everybody doing okay? Any questions so far? Okay. I don't know, it's taking longer than usual. Because I'm running Zoom and I'm running this document camera software, so it's just slowing it down. Here it is. So this is the interface, which is basically a user interface, nothing there. If I click on Italian, nothing happens, Spanish, nothing happened, German, nothing happened, because I haven't programmed them yet. So I need to program these buttons. So let's go ahead and do that. So I click on the X to close it, and I want to program them. To program a button, what you do is you double click it. So let's say I want to program the Italian button, all right? Simply double click it. When you do that, it's gonna open the code window. So it's gonna put you in the code window and where you can write your code. I'm gonna go ahead and hide this property window. You can hide it by clicking on the push pen in here. It's still there, but it's hidden. And you can hide the toolbox also. So this is the code window, all right? So basically now we need to write the code to display a message on the label that say hello, good morning in Italian. So first of all, you take the name of the control. If you remember, we named the control from this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to this thing. We named the control LBL greeting. So we have to refer to that control, right? This is why we name it, because we're gonna reference it in the program. So going back to Visual Studio, I will use the name LBL. And as soon as I type LBL, okay, you get Visual Studio is gonna give you a hint. It's gonna tell you, do you mean LBL greeting? It's gonna guess what you want, right? And this is called IntelliSense, which is very useful, okay? Anytime you see what you want displayed, don't keep on typing. Simply press on the tab key. Pressing the tab key is gonna put the word there. The advantage of doing that is that you save typing, but more important, the advantage is that you avoid typing errors, because typing errors meaning your program will not run anymore. So when I do that, then we say that, okay, all right, so you put the control name. We say that a control have many property. As you know, a control have the font property, it have the text property, it have the background color property, it have the foreground color property, it have many property. You have to tell Visual Studio which property you want to change. In this case, we want to change what we see, which is the text property. So you have to say dot text, all right? And then you say equal, and you want to set it to value. All right, the value you're going to set it, you have to put it in double quotes, all right? What you put in double quote is known as string literal. That means literally what you see is what you're going to get. All right, so we're going to put in the double quote good morning in Italian, which is buongiorno. Right, I think I spelled it correctly, maybe I didn't, but this is basically the word in Italian. All right, what does it mean? It means that when you run it, I'm going to click on the start button. Hopefully it's not going to take, I think the next time it doesn't take that long to run. First time it took long. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why it's taking so long to run. Okay. Okay. So what it means is that now the Spanish is having program, nothing happened when you click it. German, nothing happened when you click it. But this one we have clicked it. We created in here a subroutine called private sub btn Italian underscore click. This is called an event handler. We created an event handler to handle the click event on the button. So when we click on the Italian button, it's going to execute this code, which is going to set the text property of the LBL greeting label to buongiorno, and it's going to display in here, right? So it's working, right? But this doesn't work. So we have to program these two other buttons, right? How do we program? We can do the same way. We can go to the routers. We have a code tab known as Form 1 VB, and we have a design tab known as Form 1 VB design. If I click on the Form 1 VB, we go back to the form, and you can double click on Spanish to create a event handler for the Spanish button, and you can do the code in here. So in this case, you can guess what you need to do. Again, we're going to set the label LBL greeting. Again, IntelliSense kick in. Here it is, LBL greeting. Press on tab to put it in. Dot. And it's going to remember maybe the text property. So if I do T, it remember the text property. Press on tab. And we're going to say in here, good morning in Spanish, which is buenos dias. So you put that in double quote. Again, what you put in the double quote is known as a string literal, meaning literally you're gonna see buenos dias, whatever it's displayed in the double quote. Right. I'm not gonna run it because it's slow to start. I'm gonna do the third one. Now I can do the search button by going again to the form design and double click on German to do that, but I'm gonna do it another way. You can do it without leaving the code window. While you are in the code window, you can click on the second pull down list in here to select the button. When I select in here the BTN German button, here it is. You select the button from the second pull down list, and then from the third one, you select the event, which is a click event. The advantage of doing that is you can program other event. You can program other than the click event. You can program the double click event if you want, right? So you can program different event, not just one. So I'm going to do click event. And here it is, it's created, and here the click event on the BTN German button. Okay, and this one is simpler. You already get the hang of it. LBL greeting, dot text, equal. And in German is gonna say, Guten Morgen. All right, so here it is. Here are the three event handler in here. Let's run it and see if it works. It should work. So hopefully it's run faster this time. Just taking a little bit time to start. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, let me know. So this chapter 2 is very easy chapter, really. You're creating simple user interface, and the programming code is one-liner. All the code you're gonna do for chapter 2 is one-line code. That's very simple to do, right? So here it is, starting, I guess. Here it is. Okay, so we have the Italian, of course, the Spanish now, buenos dias, and the German code. So it's working now. Right, so we have a form with 3 event handler, 3 buttons, 3 event handler. Right, this is an example here. Right. Right. So anyway, this is one example. Let's. It's a good idea when you finish the coding, you can go back to the form if you like by clicking on the form tab, the form design tab. After you finish each project, it's a good idea to click on the Save All button to save your work. So click and Save All. It's gonna save your work. Okay, we're done with this one. I'm gonna go ahead and click on the file. Anyone have any question before I close this one?
Sorry, teacher, I have one question.
Yeah.
I did everything in similar way, but like when I pressed to start, the button Spanish and German, like it wasn't button. It's like I could write there.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it this way. I know that you know you're following what I'm doing and you're probably getting it all correctly. Maybe there's a small error, but for the sake of saving time, and because these are not part of your assignment, this by the way is not your assignment. Your assignment are programming exercises from the end of the chapter. So this is not your assignment. So I'm gonna basically ask you to watch the video later on and see basically what you did may be wrong. Otherwise, I won't be able to be. But you understand the concept. Basically, you have to put the label name dot text and always use IntelliSense. I'll tell you why it's important to use IntelliSense. If you say that you don't want to use IntelliSense and you type in here LBL and type greeting with an S, all right?
Yeah.
That text, all right? And then you say in here, whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Right? When you do that, it's gonna give you an error because you didn't use IntelliSense. It tells you this one doesn't exist, which is the case. We have LBL greeting, we don't have LBL greetings, and this will give you an error. So it's not just saving time typing, it also saves time resolving errors like this one. So always use IntelliSense and then you won't have this issue, right? Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, great. All right, let's go ahead and save that. And we're gonna do another one. So I'm gonna go ahead and do file and then do close solution. All right, so close this solution. We're gonna do another one. Again, we're gonna create a new project. And all the projects are gonna be the basically Windows Form app for Visual Basic. The first time you have to pick it up from here, all right, and you have to search for it because it's gonna take time for you to get it. But once you have it, you can just pick it from here. So I'm gonna double click this one. And I wanna put it in the same folder. But this application, we're gonna use in here a picture box, right? And we're gonna create a, I guess before we do this, let me make sure that I have let me minimize this one, and I wanna in here do back on this one and close this one for now. I'm gonna start Visual, the web browser. I need to log into the class website because I need to download some of the pictures that we need. And whenever you're doing an assignment, if you need some images, the images will be in the assignment itself. So sometimes you have to log into the Canvas shell and download the pictures that you need. Okay. I can close these things. Right, Canvas. and we're going to COSCI 103. Okay, and we're doing chapter 2 of Visual Basic, which are week 9, I think. So if I click on the Visual Basic program, create application with Visual Basic, where you have the PowerPoint presentation, there is images. I want to download these images. There's a picture of the president. I want to click on that Save As, and I want to put them all in a folder on the desktop. So let's put in here new folder images. Okay, I want to save them there. So there is another application we're going to do with flags. So we have 3 flags for Finland, France, and Germany. So when I right click on that, save link. Okay, save that. I should have done it before the lecture. I apologize for that. But anyway, this will tell you for the future where you can get the images if you need to. All right, so I downloaded all the needed images. So let me show you something. When you go to the assignment related to this chapter, you see that you're gonna need images, and the 2 images are in the assignment. So when you do week 9 lab, the pictures you need are in here. Actually, the poker cards is not just 1 picture, but many pictures. They are in a zip file. You can download them from here, just to let you know. All right, so they're in here. Okay, so anyway, let's go ahead and go back to the Visual Studio application, and we're gonna create a new solution. New project, and we're gonna select the same template, put it in the same folder, and we're gonna call this one Guess the President. Guess the President. And what we're gonna do in here, first I want to change the title. This is the property window in here. Change the title of the window to say, instead of form 1, we're gonna say Guess the President. Right, so it's gonna show up on the title. We're gonna add now the control. We're gonna add, again, it's in the toolbox. You click on the toolbox and you click on the push pen. You can look for picture box now. Before we add that, let's add a label. And again, we want all the text to appear in big letters. So I want to set the font for the form. So I select the form first, and then set the font to 12 point. Right, so we have that. So in here, the label is gonna say who is the president. Right, and then we're gonna add a picture. You do that by adding a picture box. And we're gonna you can size it. Right, And then we're going to add a label, another label. But we want the label to look like a text box, right? To do that, you set its auto size property to false, like we did in the previous example, and maybe put a border around it. Border style, change it from none, let's change it to fixed single. So we'll put border around it, we can resize it. All right. And we want to do the text align. We want it centered, so we go text align middle center. So select the middle center button here. We're going to center it, and we can delete the text right now. Okay. And we need to put a button. So nothing new from there. The only difference we added right now a picture box. And we're going to put in here show answer. Okay, I can resize the window. Something like that. Now, we don't have a picture in here. So to get the picture, you select the picture box, and then you go to the image property. Okay, and click on the 3 ellipses button. And from there, you can do it 2 ways. One way, you can add all the images to the project, which is usually the preferred way. You add the image to the project, but you can also import it. You can do local source and import it directly from your computer. So I do import, and I go to the desktop and go to images, and I can pick up the image in here. Right? Notice you don't see the president there, right? This is because you have to set some of the property of an image property. So we're going to talk about more properties in here. So in here, chapter 1 is really doesn't have much coding. It has lots about familiarizing yourself with a GUI interface and with the property of the different controls. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the projector. And so we talk about label property, but you can have also picture box property. All right. And one is the image, of course. The image property allow you to specify the image you want to display. So you need to set that definitely, right? But notice that when you do an image, it doesn't show up. To make it fit properly, you have to use what we call the size mode properly. By default is normal, but you need to change that. You have the size mode property. We'll talk more about these properties on the PowerPoint presentation on Monday. So we'll spend some time, but I'd like you to give you a view of how it is used before we discuss it. So, okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make it fit in here. There's 4 different size mode available, right? The default is normal, which means is that if the picture fits, it fits. If it is smaller, you're going to get some empty space with the container. If it is smaller, you're going to get what you see right now. It's going to be truncated. You're not going to see it, right? The other one is stretch image. Most of the time, we're going to set stretch image. When you do stretch image, it's going to fit it. It's going to fit the image the way it is, right? So, but it will change the proportion. So the president a little bit may look a little bit fatter than he is, right? Okay, if you want to keep the proportion, you can select the zoom. The zoom is gonna adjust the sizing so it will keep the proportion, right? So this is probably good, right? So, but the author like to use a search image. So usually you want to do search image or zoom, right? So there's other ones. We'll talk more about them during the presentation on PowerPoint presentation on Monday. Right? This is how it is. Okay. We're gonna give it a name. All right. So let's go ahead and give it a name in here. The naming convention, if you remember, you start with a PIC. So for picture box, you have PIC, and one called PIC maybe president. Always same naming convention. This is a label. We're gonna name that. All right. So we're gonna call in here LBL president name. Just describe what it is. And this is a button. Call it BTN answer or show answer. Right, so we do that. Okay. So in this case, we have one event handler, which is the show button. I can program it like we did before by double clicking it. When you double click it, it's gonna bring up, put that in the code window. In the code window, we need to program it. It's same as the other one. You put the greeting name, the label name, LBL president name dot text, and this is Theodore Roosevelt. So you put the value there. This is again a string literal. String literal, you put them in double quotes, meaning literally you would see Theodore Roosevelt the way you wrote it between the double quotes. Right. So if you run it right now, it's the same as the other example, except we added a picture in here. We added a picture box. That's all what we did. Okay, it's gonna take a little time to start. All right, while this is starting, maybe we can talk about the next application that we're gonna do. All right, it's coming. All right, here it is. So you get this thing. Now, if you click on the show answer button, it's gonna give you the name in there. Notice in here is that we didn't really need to use a button. We could have programmed the image itself. So when you click it, it will show the answer. So the image, you can treat it if you like as a button, and you can define a click event on it. So when you click it, it's gonna give you an answer too. But we'll do that in another example. Let's go ahead and close this one. All right. So everybody understand this one? Any questions? Right. So it's very easy. It's very simple. Okay. It's one liner basically. The label name dot text equal a value. That's all what you need to remember, right? Label name dot text equal whatever value you want to display in the label. Let's go ahead and save that. Click on save all. All right, and then close the solution. File, close solution. All right, we're gonna do another one. And we're gonna create a new project. Oh, I selected the wrong one. Let's back. Select in here the template that we used. All right, we're gonna put it in the same place. This one we're gonna call it flags. Okay. And here we're gonna use 3 picture boxes, not just one. All right. So let's go ahead and change the title of the form. This should say flags. Right, and we're gonna have 3 picture boxes, and we're gonna have a label. We're not gonna have any buttons. So in here it is. We're gonna have 3 picture boxes. We scroll to the letter P. Here it is. 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna have a label. I'm gonna add a label in here. Let's set the font to 12 point. Okay, and I want to set auto size. Always, most of the time when you're talking about output, you want to set the auto size to false so you can size it. And you want to set the border style either fixed 3D or fixed single. I said fixed 3D. All right, and we want to center the content, text align. When I set it to middle center. So we have that. I can delete the text. So we have that. And I can move them if you want as a block by dragging and then resize the window. So this is it. Okay, of course, the images don't show up yet. So we need to put the image properly. We can do it as we did before, one image at a time. But there's a better way to do it. If you have lots of images, instead of importing them one at a time, what you can do is you can go to the Solution Explorer window, click on the push pen to put it there. In Solution Explorer, you can right-click on the project name, which is flags, to get the shortcut menu. From there, you can do properties. And you can then go from there to resources. Right? You can go to resources and then select to add resources. And you can say add existing, you can say add existing files. And then you can navigate to where the images are, which are on the desktop under images. And you can select the 3 images, the 3 flags, and select them, say open. And it's going to add them to your project. Okay, it's kind of slow. Here it is. You have the 3 flags added now. So they are there. So now when you, I can close this window, save it, say yes. And then we're back to this one. So now I can select the first flag and then go to the property window. I'm going to go ahead and hide Solution Explorer because I don't need it anymore. I go to the image property for the first picture box. Then I can select from resources. The first image, we want it to be maybe Finland. Say okay. Now it doesn't truncate it. We can fix that in a minute. We'll do stretch image later on. We have this one. Again, we select the image. It's going to be France. And this one, again, we select the image. And it's going to be Germany. Now, this don't look good, but instead of doing it individually, I can draw a box to select all 3 flags. Doesn't have to enclose them, it just need to touch them. Here, all 3 flags are selected. Then I can go to stretch image, size mode, and select basically stretch image. It's going to fit them nicely in the container. So we have that. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and name the labels, name the controls. All right. The naming convention is for picture boxes, use a prefix PIC. So this is going to be PIC Finland. This one is going to be PIC France. And this is going to be PIC Germany. This is a label. I'm going to call it LBL country name. All right. So we're ready to program the flags. Now, notice we don't have buttons, right? But you can program the flags like you program buttons. So to program the click event on the Finland flag, simply double click it, right? When you do that, it's going to create a click event handler for the pick Finland object. So it does that. And the code is the same as the other one. So you use a label, LBL country name. Here it is, the IntelliSense kicks in, tab, dot text equal Finland. All right, so we had the first one. Let's do the second one. I can do it without leaving the code window by clicking on the second pull down list, select PIC France, and then select the third one, the click event. Right, this is LBL again, LBL country name dot text equal France. Right, and then we have the last one, PIC Germany, click event, LBL country name dot text equal Germany. This is it. This has 3 event handlers. So if you notice from the programming part, we're doing the same thing. All the programming part is a label name dot text equal value. That's all what we did. The same thing over and over again, right? So this is not much programming in this part, just doing the user interface. Let's go ahead and run it, see how this works. It's going to work the same thing, but now you click on the image to get the label displayed, label value displayed. So it's give it to start. All right, so we have that. Now, if you click on the Finland flag, it's going to trigger the first event handler to display Finland. Click on the second one, it's going to display France. Third one is going to display Germany. So you're using the images like buttons, basically. So it works more like a button, right? But the same code technique is the same coding technique, right? So I'll go ahead and save that. Save all, always do that. And then we're gonna do one new example. This is gonna be used different technique a little bit. So I know that you're getting bored with this same technique. So I want to use a different technique for this one. I want to do close solution. And I want to create a new project. And we're gonna select this template. And we're gonna call this one card flip. I do like a card flipping game. And again, we need to have two picture boxes in here. So I wanna select them from the toolbox, 1, 2. I can draw a box around them. Sometimes you may trigger an event handler without realizing. If this has happened, simply select the subroutine and delete that. Don't delete the class, keep the class, just select the subroutine and then go back to here. I'm gonna go ahead and draw a box that touches both of these things. So here it is. All right, and then I can resize them. While I'm at it, I want to go ahead and set the size mode to stretch image. Right, so this is done in here. I want to put 2 buttons. Right, the first one is going to be show card back. Okay, and this one is going to say show card front. Let's go ahead and select both of these two buttons and set the font to 12 point. So you need to resize it. Right, so we have that. Right, I can resize this whole window. What we have now, we need to have the images, right? So we need to put the two images. I can do it one by one, or I can simply go to Solution Explorer. I do it one by one because I notice this is kind of slow with my system. So I just select the first one and go to the image, click on the three ellipses, and select Import Local Source, Import, and import the back card. And this one, again, select the image, property, and local source, import, and select the front card. Here it is, so we have that. We need to name them. So actually, we don't need to name these. Yeah, we need to name them. So let's select this one. This is a picture box. A good name will be PIC back card. And this is PIC front card. And these are two buttons, BTN, show back, show back card, and this one BTN, show front card. Right, so we have these two, everything user interface is done. Actually, there is one thing we need to do. At the start, when we start running the program, I want to select both of these images. I want to make them hidden. I don't want to display them. So I can do that. Every control have a property called visible property. By selecting these two images, I can set the visible property of these two images to false. By default, the visible property is true. If you set them to false, then what's going to happen in design, you're still going to see them. But when you run it, you're not going to see it when you run it because the visible property is false. That means they're hidden. So when you run it, you're not going to see them. And we're going to write the code. So when you click on the show card back, it's going to show the back card. When you click on show card front, it's going to show the front card. So this is another technique that we're going to learn in here that's a little bit different than using label.text equal value. Now we're going to be using something like picture box dot visible equal to true or equal to false. Let's see how this will work. Right. So in this case, notice is nothing is visible because the visual property for these two cards is false. So nothing happened. I haven't programmed these. So let's go ahead and program the two buttons. Right. So the idea is when you click on show front card, you're going to show this one, but not the front card, and etc. So let's see how we're going to program it. To do that, you can double click on the show card back. You're going to put you in the code window and basically use in here the picture box name, pick back card. You're going to make that, you're going to set the visible property of it. to true. You may want to set the back card to false. Pick front card, visible. So basically, if you click on the show back, it's going to make the back card visible and it's going to make the front card not visible, right? Let's do the other one. If I select the the pick front card, click event. No, select the BTN show front card. Click event. Right, this is going to do the opposite on this one. You're going to say PIC front card dot visible equal to true, and PIC back card dot visible equal false. And this is going to basically toggle seeing one image and not the other. So let's go ahead and run and see how this works. So now we have two event handler to handle basically the click event on each button. So we can show one card but not the other. And this is how this is the logic of it. So these are the only two programming techniques you're learning, the visible property and the text property. That visible equal and that text equal. If you're using that visible, you can set it true or false. If you're using that text, you can set it to a string literal. Okay, it should be coming soon. Okay, here it is. So it is show card front, back. It's going to show the back card. It's going to hide the front card. It's going to show the back card. It's going to hide the front card. So you can do that. It's fun, right? Okay, let's make it more interesting. Let's go to the design window. Let's move them on top of each other. You can do this one like this. This one like this. So they're on top of each other right now. So when you run it now, it may look kind of nicer now because it just you see them in one place only. Originally, nothing's gonna show because both of them are not visible. But then when you click on the buttons, you see one or the other. All right, so back, show front, so it will be in one place. I don't know, you may prefer it the other way, but it's another way you can do it. All right, I want to go ahead and save that. So I'm putting lots of example in here, all right? Just to see how easy it is to do the work that you need to do for the first lab assignment, all right? We'll do one more example, and then on Monday we'll do a presentation on this on the topic that we covered. So I'm gonna do close solution, and then do new solution here. Create a new project. I select the template. All right, I'm gonna call this one numbers. Let's call it French numbers. And the problem have 5 number, 1 through 5. I want to use only 3 numbers to save time. So we're gonna put in here probably 3 buttons. One. Let me set the font for the entire form. So I want to say in here, say the text property in here 1. I set the form property. That's fine. This one, and let's copy this one. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. All right, here it is. 2. And 3. So you can do shortcut Control C to copy it, Control V to paste it, if you don't want to add the control from the toolbox. All right, so that's what it is. We're going to add a label. And as before, you're going to set its auto size mode to false. So you can size it. And the border style, let's set it to fixed single. And we can size it. And we may want to text align it to the middle center. Right, so we have that, and we can delete the text. And this is basically the form. Can name the buttons BTN1, BTN2, and BTN3. Right, so we have that, and this is a label. This is LBL, BL, French number. Right. The idea is when you click on a button, you're going to display the equivalent number in French. So you already know the technique. What's the code for this one? It's going to be LBL French number dot text equal, and you put the word in French, which is 1, right? Okay. And you can do the other ones, okay? But I want to learn another way. I want to show you 3 ways you can display text on the form. All right. One way is like we did so far, which is displayed in here. Another way you can display it on the status bar, on the form status bar. You can do that simply by scrolling down to the what we call status strip. Select that and drag it to the bottom of the form. When you do that, it's going to attach on the bottom of the form, and it's going to give you pull down option. This is an example of a tray component. It shows you the property of the tray component. Let's go ahead and click on the pull down menu in here next to this item that was added on the status bar. Select status label. We're going to add a status label in here. We're going to put a label in here. It's going to give it a text value of status tool strip status label 1. We're going to delete that, and it's going to also give you a name, default name of tool script label 1. I want to change this one, the name, to LBL status to indicate that this is the text you're going to see on the status bar, right? And I want to change the text property to empty. I want to delete that. Right. So now that we have created a status label, we can use that in our code to display the information. So we can go in the code and we can put LBL status dot text equal. My mistake. It is not 1 in French. 1 is un, and this will be un. Okay. So this is another status. Yeah, this is what happened when you don't use IntelliSense status, LBL status. Okay. There's still a third way you can display information on the form is you can display it on a pop-up window. To do that, you use a message box. You can say message. Oh, sometimes the keyboard, you can use message box. You can say message box dot show, and you can display that in a pop-up window. Say right. This is 3 ways you can do it. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and pick up these, copy these 3 command, Control C, and I want to add the 2 other event handler. So we have btn2, click event, and I want to paste these things. But we're going to change this one to the number 2. It's going to be in here, the. Right, and then we're going to do one more for the search button. btn3, click event, and this will be true. All right, so we have that. So let me run it to show you how this is work. So when you run it, so you're gonna see the label displayed on the label in the form, on the status bar, and on a pop-up window. So 3 ways you can display information. All right, so again, which one to use depend on what you're doing. Most of the time you wanna use the first method, which is displayed on the form, all right? If the information you're gonna display is informational, that is not urgent, not important, you can display it on the status bar. If you want to create, if there's lots of numbers that you want to enter, and you cannot put label for each number you want to enter, you can use pop-up windows for that. Let's see how this is work. All right, so let's click on the first one. You're going to put in here the number on the label, which is a traditional way that we learned. It's going to put it also on the status bar. And it's going to put it on a pop-up window, right? So you can close the pop-up window. Let's try the second one. Here it is. Appear in 3 places. The pop-up window, you have to close it by clicking on the OK button. And 3, here it is. All right, and this is basically what I need to do today. These are the examples. We're gonna cover them in detail in the PowerPoint presentation on Monday, but it gives you an idea of what I need to do. Before I end up the meeting, let me show you what you need to do for your assignment, because some of you still gonna think that it is what we did in class in this presentation is what needed. Let me show you what you need to do, all right? I'm gonna go ahead and switch to the presentation. You have to do 3 exercises from the end of the chapter. The first one is you have to create this thing. You have to create this thing, basically a form. In this case, you have, if you look in here, you have 2 labels, right? These are labels, 1, 2. The question mark is a separate label. And you have a show button, right? So when you click on the show button, what's going to happen? You're going to set the text property of the label of the question mark label to the answer, which is whatever 18, which is 82. So you're going to say basically LBL answer that text equal in double quotes 82, and this is going to give you this output, right? The exit is me.close, it will close the window like we did in chapter 1. For this second one, you have to do is you have to create this interface. You have to download the card files that are on the assignment link, and then you put the images, basically 5 images. You may want to import them as resources by clicking on the project name, properties, and then select resources, and then say add existing files, and add these 3 images to your project. So you have 3 images, and you have picture boxes, and you have a label, and you have a button. And when you click on the button, on each button, you can display the card name on the on the label. So this is the other one you have to do. And the third one is for this thing, you have an image of this whole thing. You're gonna add to these nodes, you're gonna add labels, right? You're gonna make all the labels hidden. You're gonna make them hidden, not visible. You're gonna set their visible property to false. And then when you do show stars, you're gonna set their visual property to true so they can show up. When you click on hide, you're gonna set their visual property to false so they can hide them. So it's again similar to the last example or the one before the last example with it. So these are the 3 assignments you need to do for this chapter. They are very simple. You should be able to do them actually right now. So you may want to start with that. There's no calculations or anything like that today. So there's no input, there's no processing. It's just so you and the documentation you need just to put only your name. That's it. For chapter 3, we'll have to do input, processing, and outputs, and we'll talk about that later on. That's all what I have for today. I'm going to end the recording, and then if you have a question, you can ask me, but let me first end the recording. So 1 second.